Okay. About half of you quieted down without me even saying anything. I thought, wow, that's power. Just walk on the stage and you all get quiet. I don't know if this is going to work. It did. Thank you for being here. This is our semi-annual State of the University address. And I always have the privilege of beginning our time together with prayer. For prayer today, I'm going to use a prayer that I used at Community Day, but if you weren't there, or even if you were, maybe it'll still mean something to you. As you hopefully know, our value of the year for 2025-2026 is peace and justice. The image on the screen is the mosaic from the Evans Center. If you don't recognize it, or if you do, this is the mosaic that symbolizes peace and justice. And I thought it was an appropriate background. If we look back at our Franciscan heritage book, the definition of peace and justice, or the wording for peace and justice, which came from my congregation, says, we strive to reflect in our lives and in our service our belief that our individual response to God's initiative is best experienced and fostered in our sharing of ourselves, our gifts, and our talents. We desire to be concretely responsive to the ever-present issues of peace and justice. In this stance, and together with church, religious, and civic communities, we dare to challenge contemporary values and practices which are contrary to the Gospels wherever they occur. We likewise challenge one another to venture into new, creative responses to ever-changing needs among and together with the diversity of God's people. And as we look at our world today, it seems like a very appropriate value that we need to hold dear and we need to practice. So I invite you to do that, to reflect frequently on how that value has impacted your actions in your life each day. The prayer I chose today is inspired by the peace prayer attributed to St. Francis. So knowing that we are in the presence of God and God is always in our presence, let us pray. Creator of all, make me a person of peace. Where there is oppression, let me bring equality. Where there is abuse, dignity. Where there is fragmentation, unity. Where there is exploitation, justice. Where there is conflict, resolution. Where there is discrimination, mutuality. Where there is violence, vision. Where there is powerlessness, power. Grant that I might not so much seek to compete as to collaborate, to exclude as to include, to dominate as to complement. For it is in healing that we are healed, it is in reconciling that we are reconciled, it is in our common bond that we become whole. We ask these things in Jesus' name and all your holy names. Amen. I begged for a couple of minutes just to give you a really quick update on the PJP. Last year at this time, we talked about the new public juridic person that the Vatican had erected called the Third Order Franciscan University Alliance. And I know you've not heard much about that in the past year. There have been a lot of behind the scenes happening. This is definitely pioneer work. There are not a lot of PJPs that have been erected for Catholic higher educational institutions. So we are doing a lot of learning and discerning about what this really means for Catholic higher education institutions. But I wanted to just outline there's a group that is like the PJP. We call them the governing body of the PJP. And according to the document from Rome, the agreed upon thing was that there would be 3 people appointed by the Joliet Franciscans, they're the other group involved in this PJP, and 3 people appointed by Oldenburg, the Sisters of St. Francis of Oldenburg, and then 1 at-large member. Well, apparently I don't know how to work this. Oh, there we go. Maybe I'm not doing it, maybe they're doing it, and I just think I'm doing it. Much of my life is that way. I think I'm doing things, really not me at all. Anyway, these are the people that have been named to the Public Juridic Person Board. There are 2 Sisters of St. Francis of Mary Immaculate, which is the official name of the Joliet Franciscans, and then a layman who was president of their board. And then we have 2 sisters from Oldenburg, Jean Marie, who many of you know, and Annette Grizzly, who has been on the board. And then Tom Enneking was the 3rd person that we appointed to the PJP board. Many of you know Tom. And then Debbie Haug was the at-large member. She is the executive director of the Association of Franciscan Colleges and Universities, so may be familiar. She's also an alum from Marian, so we sort of get 3.5 people or 3 3/4 people, but they don't seem to notice that. So anyway, we have been doing work. The group has been doing work. We are actually meeting on October 27th at Lindenwood for a 1-day I call it formation, they're calling it a retreat experience, but we're going to do a lot of getting to know you kinds of things and learning a little bit more about PJPs and Franciscan higher ed. So please hold that group, all of us, in your prayers, and we will keep you posted as things develop. And now I'm going to invite Dan.
By the way, for new people, welcome to the folks that are online too. The PJP is inside church language. That's public juridic person. Any entity that wants to be a Catholic, whatever, and wants to be connected to church has to have a formal connection. And so our public juridic person and our chair, Toby McClamrock's here. Thanks, Toby. Toby and I will be joining the retreat or formation event that you talk about. So, Dr. Enneking, I am doing it. Dr. Enneking and I are going to kind of split this up. Did I say Enneking? Because I saw his name up there. That's a blast from the past. Dr. Britt. Someone should call Enneking up and tell him, hell, Elsener's looking for you. That's kind of funny. Says something about my age, probably. So I'm going to spend a little time setting this up. I'm going to reassert and reaffirm and clarify what we're doing and where we're going and why. Dr. Enneking has a presentation about the strategy, the steps we'll take to get there. If there's time left, did I say Enneking again? I can't wait to see Tom. He's living in my mind. We'll have Dr. Britt do that, actually. Tom's probably golfing. Basically, right now, and this would be consistent with higher ed right now, the pattern is hold on for a lot of institutions. Some have just really decided, look at the demographics such are, will shrink a little, and that'll be a better model. Some are hoping for a better day. That's really not a strategy. And contrary, we've decided, and we talked about it last year, and it's causing a little tension and nervousness. Now, I've often said pressure makes diamonds. It puts a little pressure on us. And I'm going to talk about that too, historically. But my wife and I teach marriage prep, and they talk about a mountain, and at the top of the mountain is the summit, right? And that's a happy, productive, enriching, life-giving marriage. Well, it's a journey to get there. Some days you go forward, some days back. Of course, we always went forward. She's here, so it's always been glorious in Shangri-La. But anyway, you need certain things for that journey to take with you, and you need a plan. Otherwise, you could fall off that mountain or not get there or run out of provisions. Now, we normally don't talk about walking around here. We talk about freight trains and big ships and rocket ships. But the fact of the matter is, we've set out an idea. It's a calling. It's a purpose. When we look here in this big city in the middle of the country, the role of a Catholic university, when the board and we all met and a lot of people had input, we used it in the middle of our mission. We'd say we want to be excellence in teaching. We changed it. We thought we had a bigger purpose. The world's changing, the technology, the need for values and bigger character and a way to view the human person and what a good steward of our brain and knowledge and skill should be. And we thought, let's change our mission to excellence in learning through teaching, research, and scholarly activity. Let's better understand and create new knowledge as the world's changing, illumined by our faith and grounded in gospel values, that our research, our questions to be answered, our view of how to come at those questions needed to be in the marketplace of ideas and human progress. And we were set up to do that. We were called to do that. It's another one of Marian's many, over the history, preposterous undertakings. For people that weren't here last year, we used the moonshot video as kind of a primer. I'm going to do it again. I debated I shouldn't do this again. The reason I like it, pick up on the themes. Big things draw big responses out of the human person. It calls for unity. It calls for our best. And it's compelling. It's compelling to the university community. It's compelling to the students. It's compelling to our alums. It's compelling certainly to our donors if you see the response. It's compelling to civic leaders, governors, congressional folks, that Marian would draw in this kind of talent and take on that kind of purpose right here in the middle of America. Let's watch this.
We meet in an hour of change and challenge, in a decade of hope and fear, in an age of both knowledge and ignorance. The greater our knowledge increases, the greater our ignorance unfolds. No man can fully grasp how far and how fast we have come. But condense, if you will, the 50,000 years of man's recorded history in a time span of but a half a century. Stated in these terms, we know very little about the first 40 years, except at the end of them, advanced man had learned to use the skins of animals to cover them. Then about 10 years ago, under this standard, man emerged from his caves to construct other kinds of shelter. Only 5 years ago, man learned to write and use a cart with wheels. Christianity began less than 2 years ago. The printing press came this year. And then less than 2 months ago, during this whole 50-year span of human history, the steam engine provided a new source of power. Newton explored the meaning of gravity. Last month, electric lights and telephones and automobiles and airplanes became available. Only last week did we develop penicillin and television and nuclear power. This is a breathtaking pace, and such a pace cannot help but create new ills as it dispels old. So it is not surprising that some would have us stay where we are a little longer, to rest, to wait, if this capsule history of our progress teaches us anything. It is that man in his quest for knowledge and progress is determined and cannot be deterred. We shall send to the moon, 240,000 miles away, a giant rocket more than 300 feet tall on an untried mission to an unknown celestial body, and then return it safely to Earth. But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked.
By the way, if you ever want to watch that and get a laugh, you can find it. Watch Lyndon Johnson there in the corner, who was a character anyway, if you ever read his biography. I'm sure Chris Creighton has, but he's looking around, fanning himself and saying, come on, Kennedy, get over this. It's hot out here. Recap that. Change was happening fast in the world. He couldn't imagine today from 1962 how fast. It's changing even faster. When we look at the need in something compelling, human flourishing basically rests on two big pillars. Are you learning, and not just for 12 years or 14 years or 18 years, your whole life long, and are you healthy? Those two big pillars that support human flourishing, which Dr. Lowry and Tran and Dr. Britt, not Dr. Enneking, although he would contribute, we've thought a lot about. We won't be all over on research, but we really want to concentrate the research of this great Catholic university on human flourishing. And it all rests on a foundation of how you see the human person, the ethics, the morals, the character of the individuals in this country and our nation as a whole. And to understand how that all interacts, we will have to be seekers of knowledge and translators of knowledge into action as a university right here in Indianapolis. And as we've shared this vision with political leaders, and donors, and others, they always say this is really bold, exciting, great for our city. Senator Lugar, in a 1968 speech, he was Mayor Lugar at the time, talked about if this was going to be a great city, we'd have to have great R1 institutions committed to research and teaching and exploration. And he talked about the bioscience industry, which he couldn't have imagined at this time. And so that's where we're going there. And I will tell you this, we're going to do it in an environment that I've been president now 24 years. Some of you are painfully aware because you've been here with me. And then before that, interestingly, I served on a board of trustees for 4 years of a university. And in all my time of service, this is the most challenging environment for higher ed. And I have no doubt about that. So we want to launch this rocket, trudge up this mountain, however you want to go, sail this ship in a very tough environment. I don't have to remind you, but I will. Demographically, we have less 18-year-olds. And in the state of Indiana, about 10 or 11% less students are going to college out of the graduating classes of smaller classes. So basically, if we were selling chicken in a community, the community's shrinking, and about 10% of them say they don't like chicken anymore. So we better have some pretty fancy chicken and other items on the menu or we're in trouble. Public opinion, recent Gallup poll, 37% of the public said they highly are greatly value, or somewhat, I think the two categories were higher education. It wasn't that many years ago, probably 8 or 9, it was in the 70s. Now we could say the public's just totally misinformed and they don't know what they're talking about, or we should listen to that. And by the way, did you notice the politicians, the people who run our government, they pay close attention to polls. They hardly ever go against them. And if they do go against them on a regular basis, they're called former congressmen and former governors, et cetera. So the public is speaking that you're too expensive, too one-sided, you don't fulfill your promise, you've lowered your standards, on and on and on. And we have work to do. 130 college universities have closed, merged, or been acquired in the last 9 years. And 1 out of 10 that's still open is in serious financial peril. And that's all public data. And accountants did that whole thing of peer institutions nationally and statewide. I have a lot of it. I've studied it closely. Enrollments are down. Ours, fortunately, is doing well. Net tuition revenue has been whacked hard because when there's a whole bunch of seats and only a few students, people start doing stupid things. That's why 1 out of 10 colleges is in serious peril, like I have up there. And then there's a retention problem and graduation problem in higher ed. So there's a lot of things going on that make this a rather tough time to launch a rocket. This is a great quote. I've had it for years, actually. The greatest danger in times of turbulence is not turbulence itself, but to act with yesterday's logic. So, yesterday's logic will take care of this. It won't. The turbulence is a fact of life, and we have a particularly turbulent era right now that we're navigating. There's a couple things. We studied this book carefully. Lilly Endowment recommended it. They have people that do a lot of research. It's Levin, and I've mentioned it before, and a guy named Van Pelt. Van Pelt's a UPenn guy, and Levin was Columbia. And I've actually know Levin. He's been on campus here, actually. We had a nice visit with him. I take the thesis of his book, be distinctive. Decide who you are and be it very consistently. We're a Catholic Franciscan institution. We have strong community. Apply a clear strategy. Don't try to do a little bit of everything. That is not a strategy. Pick what you're going to do it at a high quality manner. He predicted in this book 5-6 years ago, the regional publics would go diminish severely. They'd close in their offerings and they'd have 10-20% less students. Have you watched the news this summer? They eliminated 260 programs? Their enrollments are down 10, 20, 50%. Flagship institutions, he said, will do well. They have the money, the resources, and they're unique. There's only so many flagship institutions. He said nondescript private institutions that are not distinctive will go out of business one after another. And it's happening, and more will happen. He said private institutions that have a distinct calling and purpose and live it out at a high level, strategically with great management, will thrive. Because the marketplace will have the excellent and the average and the staying open type approach. Well, basically I would say this. I often go to meetings. I was at one not too long ago with a panel of presidents, and they said, who do you view your main competition? I said, he's in the mirror every day. And all my colleagues have that same competition, just not my face. It's us. You know what? IU Indy cannot do what I do. They cannot do what you do. They will not try to do what we do. I would dare them to try. Excellence, personal attention, community, our faith dimension. Be who we are at a very high level. and we'll have to limit class size. And many people will donate, and we will thrive. Try to research everything. We'll probably, with strategic research projects, we can move forward very, very well. What he said in this book caught my attention. He said, this is what you do not do, or don't rely on this. Magical thinking, this will all go away. The next couple of years, there'll be a ton of 18-year-olds. In case you don't know, it doesn't work like that. You have to be born and then travel 18 years. So you can't really just go, we'll put our head down and this is going to pass too, okay? It's just like a little headache. It's gone. It won't happen. Complacency and assumption. Complacency says, hey, Marian's always been around. And by the way, I think we will be. We'd really have to go out of our way to make sure it wasn't around. But around like we want it to be. What's compelling, what would draw talented people here. You can't rely on complacency to be distinctive and high quality. Complacency will not get it. And you all know that. The assumption, well, I just do my little piece, Elsener will take care of it, the board will take care of it, or some donor will give us $200 million and it'll all be fine. By the way, that'll be fine. That would be helpful. By the way, if that happens, it'll be because we're compelling. You know, I mean, every gift is a sign we have something compelling here that people care about. Because, by the way, our friends are not raising money like we are, and I'll show you some data in a minute. Oh, another one he said don't do. By the way, these guys are right out of higher ed. You know, they're not outsiders throwing rocks. They've been up through the ranks. Don't say, oh, we already tried that. That failed. It won't work. He said, that won't get you done. And I think I passed up short fixes. Short fixes, and a good business, like our business team would tell you, careful, President. If you do continuous improvement, if you improve your class, your lesson, your design, your program here by 1% repeatedly, you'll be really good program. So I'm not against continuous improvement. Do your adjustments every day, please. Absolutely, we all need to do that. But what he said is, if you just do short fixes continuously, you won't make it. We've taken long-term approaches, 10-year plans, med schools that took 12 years to start, PT, OT group is here, that's a long process. But take the long view. How do you, we got to have it just like it was? No, and it'll take time, and we'll make investments. Take the long view. By the way, he does a little paragraph too, and again, they're out of higher ed. The way that higher ed has governed itself over the years will not take care of us going forward. We're going to have to be more efficient. We're going to have to be, yes, collaborative, shared governance, but it's got to be about forward. In Indiana, the private institutions, and I took all of our peers except for Notre Dame and Martin because they're kind of outliers. Do you know the average tenure of presidents is 4 years? Now, it isn't because they died. Maybe on the vine, but they were still there. No. We spend a lot of time in higher ed attacking one another. I'm not talking about Marian so much. I'm talking about the sector. I think the longest serving president in the Big Ten is 4.5 years now. There's fights between the board. There's some of these institutions about every other year the faculty is calling for the resignation president and all. He said higher ed spends a lot of time like this and not enough time like that. Unity of purpose. Thankfully, we're good in that area. Just a good reminder to stay on it. It's in his book if you don't believe me. Demographics, I already talked about it. What have we done? I'm really proud of what we've done at Marian. I'm proud of our board. I'm proud of our leadership, proud of our faculty, staff, our donors. We have an online program. Now we're making new investments in the online program. It's starting to expand enrollment. We have a St. Joe Earn and Learn College. Nice pop in enrollment growth is starting to take hold. I just mentioned a few. MU Prep, so we're working with the K-12 system. Our work with Reed and the Klipsch Educators College is nothing short of phenomenal. The average increase in third grade reading in the state, 3 to 5%, depends on school, and we get average of 9.9. The Reed schools in our Reed area that we worked with, the Klipsch College, Center for Vibrant Schools, the whole crew, a special thanks to Bob Baining, who's been working at this for years, 14.5% increase. Some of our schools increased third grade passage rates by 30%. And you might say, President, that's great, but we're talking about if students, the trajectory of a student that learns to read at third grade is enormously different than those who don't. I'm telling you, it's a critical thing our society should insist on, but it takes experts in the science of reading, a commitment of university to be in the field, working with people, and it's big news what we've achieved in that area. The women's prison. All of our service project, the research and how it's grown so fast here, millions of dollars of research. Our fundraising success is remarkable. We raised $75.9 last year. The average, all the privates, again, except Notre Dame and Martin, raise on average about $4,000 per student. Marian in 24 raised on average a little over $11,000 per student. Isn't that incredible? And this year, I think it's around 28. I want to check my numbers on that. But we are, public opinion, as I see it, by the leadership in government and corporate philanthropy about Marian is we're an outlier. People think of us as folks that act, we're accountable, we do things, we're in the community, we're in the neighborhood, and people invest in that. Like the Lilly Endowment, $25 million. The state gave us workforce. People are piling on to big, bold ideas where we can research what's best if you want to transform a neighborhood. There's a lot of closings. What have we done? We have a lot of partnership discussions going on with R1 schools. We have non-disclosure agreements. I can't go into details. We have other colleges, universities are smaller that are thinking about the paradigm of the past, each school being independent totally, will not work. We're doing agreements with other schools of how you get in our med school and et cetera, et cetera. So we're having all sorts of discussions, corporate and other universities, how we partner. We see that as a future. Our enrollment is growing, especially compared to the rest. Our net tuition, because we've done a nice mixture of professional schools with our undergraduate being $500-600, our net tuition is considerably higher than the average, almost double than the average in private higher ed. So the journey to human flourishing will be tough. It'll be worth us all joining in. We are coming out of a tradition of what we call preposterous undertakings. I steal that from the sisters. The very fact they came to this country was preposterous. It was faith-driven. It was about serving the human person. It was outward focused. Coming here during the Depression, moving from a college, decided to be a great Catholic university in a great American city, building a med school when we had just been at college a few years before, et cetera, et cetera. This thing is built on preposterous undertakings. What will it take? What provisions should we take up the mountain? Fly on the spaceship, go on the train. I think Dr. King has locomotives. We can go either way. I mean, it's all, here's the provisions. Regardless of the vehicle, okay, or the mode of transportation, we got to take our vision, values, and mission. We're a leadership institution. We're a Catholic university dedicated to excellence in learning through teaching, scholarly activity, or research in the Franciscan liberal arts tradition. And you know our values, and especially peace and justice. Be distinctive in quality by design, by execution, by our outcomes, and how we communicate and brand it. And we have Mike Johnson here going to help us with that. We have to be a unified community. President Kennedy was brilliant in bringing everybody around that big goal. Even different party affiliations and backgrounds. They said, this is a beautiful goal. And then we need strategy, and that's where I'm going to ask Dr. Britt. We leave Dr. Enneking on the bench for now to come up and talk a little bit, how we're going to do this, because it's going to take strategy and focus. Come on, Dr. Britt. You can go off of that.
Well, I'm humbled to be compared to Dr. Enneking. A little nervous because he's retired. So I'm wondering if I'm being invited to retire. Thank you very much, President Elsener, and thank you everybody for being here. This is such a joy. This is my 13th year here at Marian University. It's gone by so fast. And it's just such a joy to be able to implement this great vision. You can have exceptional vision making, and the president does it better than anybody. But we actually have to deliver on all of the promises that he makes out there, right? And it's been fun to watch the work over the last 13 years deliver consistently. And it's really amazing. We've had different images. We've talked about rocket ships today. We're going to talk about trains again. We're going to bring the train back. But I'm not going to go through this slide too much, but this is our strategic plan. This is something that the board approved several years ago about our direction, our journey to 2030, where we have our power goals on the right, and we have our 3 strategic pillars. I'm going to talk mostly about our 3 strategic pillars today, and I'm going to translate them into locomotives. When I talk about these locomotives, the destination is human flourishing. The president talked about it earlier, and I always have this image. In 2001, imagine this. Some of you were here in 2001. If Marian ceased to exist, the board took a chance on hiring a non-traditional president. Imagine if they didn't have that courage and Marian ceased to exist or look differently. Imagine the lack of impact that we would have in nursing and healthcare and business and education. So if you are like me and get motivated by the president's speeches and conversations, what are we going to do in the future? How are we going to bring this joy to our community and throughout the region? So I'm going to use the theme of the locomotive today in our 3 pillars. And I want to have a disclaimer because I want to make sure that we all have this mindset of inclusivity. We need 3 lead locomotives: faith in action, STEM, access, and success. With those 3 locomotives, or 3 trains, there's a locomotive that's going to pull all of these trains. The president and I left a board meeting one day, and I was driving home, and we don't live too far from each other, but I was in front of him, and we got stopped by this train. It's consistent, always stopped by this stupid train. And I started to turn around, and the president said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm trying to get around this train." And he said, "Just be patient. It's going to be okay." Well, he got home before I did. So now I'm patient. And I sit there as we've been thinking about these, this locomotive theme, and I see the front car, the locomotive, and I see the trains, right? These trains pull goods and products. Doesn't mean that the locomotive is more important than all the cars that they're pulling, 50, 60, 70, even 100 deep. Because what happens if you have the locomotive that attends to the destination but gets unhooked and leaves all the products behind? We collectively are a complex university. From online, Ancilla, Nashville, Tennessee, College of Arts and Sciences, and everything in between. So I'm asking you, or inviting you, maybe more specifically, to picture yourself on these trains, this destination of human flourishing. So the first train, and I think our distinctive identity is really important for me to start here, is this: our faith in action. We are a Catholic Franciscan university. We're proud of our tradition and our heritage that the sisters gave us in 1851. Our lead train that we're going to invest in, and when you think about lead trains, lead locomotives, these are locomotives that provide significant resources to the university. And when I mean significant resources, I mean brand, distinctiveness, tuition dollars, philanthropy, or preferably all of them at the same time. That's what I mean by significant resources. So it's not that everything else on the train and all these goods that we provide are unimportant. It is important. You are important. Everybody here that's participating in our mission is critical. The San Damiano Scholars Program, distinctive. Patrick Verheily sent me the notes yesterday. We started our first cohort in 2003. It's something that no other university does in the country. Brand, impact. We have nearly 800 alumni that have gone out there and they're priests or religious or business leaders or teachers or nurses. The San Damiano Scholars Program has birthed so many other opportunities like the Missionary Disciples Institute and now the Franciscan Leadership Institute. But we do want to make sure that we attend to our San Damiano Scholars Program and reinvest in our Assisi pilgrimage. I wear this bracelet every day. This was the pilgrimage bracelet for those of you who had a chance to go on. This is a constant reminder of the journey that we're on every day together. STEM. It's almost like a cough, right? STEHM. Got to get that H in there. In 2013, my very first summer, I started a couple of months beforehand, we opened Indiana's second medical school. What a proud moment. 2001, we almost closed. 2013, we cut the ribbon on Indiana's second medical school, something that had not happened in 100 years. We have an exceptional dean, great faculty and staff. We've graduated more than 1,000 physicians who are Marian University graduates. Maybe some of you have been attended by a physician in some of the hospitals or settings that you've gone to, like I have. And they come in there and they're joyful, they're proud, and then you're proud, right? Over 1,000 physicians, many in primary care, many also in the state of Indiana. It is next to financial aid, which I'll talk about next in Access and Success. It is the largest single budget item at Marian University, the medical school. So you think about brand, distinctiveness. There are only 2 in the state. We have an exceptional medical school. So the Wood College of Osteopathic Medicine is our lead engine, but it has birthed, you think about all the programs that this has also birthed over the years. Our biomedical sciences program, nurse anesthesiology, our pre-med programs. We need to continue to look at ways to invest in revenue-generating programs. It's one of the reasons why we've taken a risk on the physical therapy, occupational therapy programs. We know that it's going to return an increase and have great occupational therapists, physical therapists, and assistants out in our community and across the state. And we're proud of the work that they're doing to get us there. The engineering school. I think sometimes we forget, we just opened up an engineering school. It's a beautiful building. But we're bringing in 100 engineering students every single year. Finally, access and success. This is the heart of what we do. This is the heartbeat of Marian University. 40% of our students are low income as undergraduates. 40. That is unheard of for private universities, I can tell you. Just our neighbor up the street, Butler, their number is closer to 12%. We are not an elite institution helping the elite become more elite. That's not who we are. We are giving people an opportunity to succeed, and our 21st Century Scholar Program is an exceptional example, and Kaylin, the work that you and your team are doing. But our lead engine, again, distinctiveness, prestige, philanthropy, through the Klipsch Educators College. To date, the Klipsch College, through John Fink, the advancement team, yes, give John Fink a hand. That's somebody loves John. I think we all love John. Through President Elsener, John Fink, the advancement team, Mary Callahan, Bob Baining, we've raised $150 million in the Klipsch College. Distinctiveness, brand, execution. I remember when Dr. Tran first came in town and we were meeting with one of the foundations that had given us money over the years. One was to the Klipsch College. They'd given us $5 million. They had made another $5 million commitment to the engineering school. And I thanked them. I gave them a hug. They said, Ken, Marian is easy to give money to because you will always deliver. You think about what the president referenced, Bob Baining, and the Center for Vibrant Schools. It's quite remarkable when you think about it. You know, we birthed this idea when I was the dean of the Klipsch College, and what has happened, I think, after I left, thankfully, they were actually able to do things, but they served 160 schools. Sam gave me these numbers, so these are, if these are wrong. Okay, Sam, all right. 160 schools, 6,000 teachers, and 50,000 students, just in the state of Indiana and Ohio. What a remarkable transfer. So thank you to the Center for Vibrant Schools and the work that you've done. Athletics is another major driver. We have one of the best athletic directors in the country, Steve Downing. Steve doesn't like to be embarrassed, but I'm going to embarrass him. Athletic Director of the Year, national championships, another national championship in cycling. Not too long ago, our rugby team beat IU. Couple of weeks, we're going to beat Notre Dame. Athletics is a laboratory of leadership, as the president often references. So there's so much more that we can do with access and success. This is our responsibility. This is our responsibility to really help advance human flourishing. One of my favorite singers is John Legend. I actually sang, for those of you who weren't here, you didn't get a chance to hear it, but I sang right at the beginning in one of his songs, one of my favorite songs, called If You're Out There. If you haven't heard it before, I'd encourage you to look it up. It's about leadership. And one of my favorite lines in that song says this: we are searching for leaders, but the leader was me. Not me, you. Not me, like all of us. Each of us is a leader on this train for the destination of human flourishing. Everything that we do, everything that you do, has to be performed with a high degree of execution. Otherwise, we will fail. You are the leaders. This isn't a plan that just rests in the president's office or with the board. It's with all of us. We own this plan. We own this mission. And it's a great responsibility to do so. As the president mentioned, we are in the most challenging times. Marian, however, will not play it safe. I joke with the president all the time and say, you know, we have great momentum on our side. And what we've done over the last 24, 25 years is going to pale in comparison to what we're going to do over the next 25 years. Not because I'm disrespecting the past, because I'm so hopeful for what our future is. We've worked so hard, but there's so much more to do. I listened to a presentation recently from Denzel Washington, and I heard this quote, and I thought it was really relevant for us today, especially in light of the president's comments. He said, God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. We are Marian Knights and Chargers. We are knights. We are soldiers. We are on this mission together to build this great Catholic university in this great American city so that we may fulfill our mission to be this great Catholic university dedicated to excellence in learning, research, and scholarship in the Franciscan and liberal arts tradition. I'm so honored to serve with you. I'm so honored to serve with the president to make that happen. God bless you, and I'm going to ask the president to come up and finish this out.
By the way, before we close, I want to say something about Dr. Britt. We'll give you two names now. You can build up that. He was very complimentary of fundraising in the Klipsch College and enrollment, but you've had a big hand in all that. I appreciate your leadership. Same with Dr. Tran, Mike Beadle, our CFO, and working hard on strategy. I've been blessed over the years to work with really talented people. We've never had a stronger group. Deb Lawrence is ever present. And now I start that, I know I'm going to leave someone out, and I really apologize, but we just really have good people. I look around that table, and I just feel safe because I know we have such smart, dedicated people, very faith-filled, people with great values. I just thought I'd close with this. You know, if you look around what's going on in our local community, you have a lot of poverty, you have a lot of people who just don't have any respect for life at all. I don't know how they got that way, but I know that we have to do something different about it. We have people who think if you have a political disagreement that you've disrespected them or it's been aggressive, so I have the right now to physically harm you, even kill you, and think it's good. That's a possibility. How did we get that way? I think as society, we're going to need leading institutions. Excuse me, I don't think this. I'm committed at this institution, with you and the board we have and the donors we have, that we can do better and put proper leaders in government, science, and technology, and engineering, and especially education, where we form our next generation, that truly do have at the core a Christian ethos, that everybody truly does have dignity. They never lose it, even when they have different opinions than us, or they look different, or they have less money, or maybe they don't smell a little different. Maybe they're from a different country. They're still part of God's family. They have unbelievable gifts, inestimable gifts to be seen, to be developed, and to do that, we not only need to be great teachers, we need deeper research on how you form and develop learners and how you create a healthy society, not only physical health, but social, religious, character-type health, and that we pursue all that knowledge together, not separate out faith from reason or prudential judgment of different factors. Tomorrow night we'll have an interesting event right here, won't we, Chris? You'll have Eric Holcomb, our former governor, and then you'll have Joe Donnelly, ambassador to the Vatican and former senator, up here on stage, not really having a debate, but talking about civility and intelligence. And if you don't agree with someone, take the time and effort to learn and formulate another position. Stay in the game. That other person never loses their dignity. That's our message here. And that's how you develop our value of peace and justice. And that's why we're called to go deeper into research, greater scholarly activity, look for people who want to be outstanding educators, and make sure that we do everything possible to never make another human being feel like I'm the person on the outside looking in. That's our mission. And it's a great privilege to be part of an institution that's like that and committed to that. And we've made great progress, but I agree with Dr. Britt. I think we just scratched the surface. And I've been in the governor's office with this vision. We've been in the speaker's office. I'll have another congressman here, a senator, U.S. senator here this week or next, I can't remember. And I share our vision about bringing another R1 powerful institution, and that this state will in the future have Notre Dame, IU, Purdue, and Marian University as R1 institutions, and we'll do it in our own unique and distinct way, and that this journey is not only noble, it's worthwhile, compelling, and worthy of investment. And I know people to your face aren't going to tell you you're crazy, but I must say they're very enthusiastic about this vision, not only for our students in this neighborhood, but this city, state, and nation. Thank you all, and let's keep moving forward prayerfully and with great dedication and unity. Amen.